And the Oscar goes to pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. He didn't do it just once. He said, pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. Because the more you do it, the more the expression comes out of him, comes out of actors, characters, the more the audience is going to feel it. The brilliant storyteller, lawyer, John Meadors. That's where the guns were, because the guns disappeared from the property. The guns disappeared from the property. Perfect example of what acting greatly is, and not the misunderstood acting, which majority of the people still seem to make mistakes about, believing that they're putting a show on, they're being theatrical, they're being fake, they're being insincere. That's all wrong. Great acting, which could be not just referring to the actors, but act as an action, as doing something, as an active participant into something. Act greatly. Closing arguments. Most importantly, we're going to focus on the rebuttal of the closing argument from the prosecution, and more specifically of the exceptional storyteller, lawyer, John Meadors. I don't know if you worked with an acting coach. I know a lot of lawyers who work with acting coaches, as they should. The smart ones work with acting coaches to be able to tell a story to the audiences, to the jurors in their cases. Ultimately, all the evidence, circumstantial, direct evidence, of course it does matter, but at the end, the way that you're going to win the case, the way that you are going to win the jurors to see your side is due to the way that you tell your side of the story, from the actor's manual, from the actor's tools. Imagine him as a character. Imagine him to be an actor playing this character of the prosecutor, doing the rebuttal of the closing argument for the state. Unlike the other lawyers, the defense lawyers, and the other lawyers on his team, Mr. Creighton Waters, who also did an okay job, this amazing lawyer gets up, his mind, body, and soul, giving himself the permission, saying to himself, I have done enough of the preparation during the 6 weeks of this trial. I've done the work the same way that an actor would have to do. I've memorized the lines. I know the work. I've done the script analysis. I've realized all of the ins and outs of what this case is about. Trust yourself. Let it go. You don't need to have the script in front of you. You don't need to have the paper in front of you. You trust yourself enough to leave yourself alone to be a human being and put yourself in front of an audience, in this case, to put yourself on stage, which in this case is the courtroom, and the audience are the jurors. I want to say thank you so much, first of all. He's already creating a dialogue with them, even though he knows they're not going to respond. The monologue, which is him speaking alone, doesn't remain a monologue, which most bad actors and lawyers would do. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a manual on how to become a great juror, to rely on you being a human being? We cannot divide ourselves from our personal backstory, from our personal experiences, from where we come from. I just was telling you in the beginning of the episode, my birthday today. Where does my mind go to? My grandmother, who passed many years ago, whom I miss so much. And that makes me have feelings already that will come up of what makes good jurors, which is the same definition, what makes good actors. Going back to life experiences, he will allow himself to be experiencing that which he's feeling when he is telling the story. You have to imagine what we call the fourth wall. He has to let the audience on the side for a little bit, and then he starts to imagine. So he's imagining the eclipse. By him imagining it, he takes the jurors to see it themselves by moving their hand over the top of the jurors' heads. If a great actor imagines something, the audience will imagine. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying that he's using acting tools. Characters, we don't know what we're going to say next, but it's going to look like you are surprising yourself in the moment, bringing justice to those people, to those two people who have no voice. He took that goal and objective of this closing of the whole trial. He took it upon himself as if it were his own goal and as if his life depended on it. They think you're that stupid. They think you're that stupid as people to believe. That's what they think. Acting is not about superficiality, dishonesty, and cunning, acting badly. This prosecutor is completely the opposite. The opposite. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm in church right now. I feel like I'm in my dad's church preaching. Closing act. And the Oscar goes to Mr. John Meadors. Guess what? I'm thirsty. I'm going to borrow this water, which I think the water was placed on in front of where the jurors were. So he's putting himself in the same shoes of the audiences as to say, I understand you. I'm not going to go to the table where my team is, the legal team, because I'm a human being just like you are. He's leaving it all on the stage. Yes, he is. Leave it all on the stage. The manual that doesn't exist for jurors, the manual that doesn't exist for life, the manual that exists is the one for actors. And I think the manual for actors can be used for jurors, it can be used for lawyers, it can be used for everyday people in everyday life. It can be used by all. Her body language is if she's now again there. The situation, do you remember the situation with Miss Shelley when she came to testify? He's trying to remember as if it's happening. Do you remember? And she was sitting right there. Since the guns were never found. Sensory experiences in the moment, as if it's happening right now. He's becoming the character Alex Murdaugh, carrying those guns in the blue thing. He's becoming the character Miss Shelley. He's talking to Baba, the dog, Baba. He's doing all of it. Small, big. He is experiencing it in the moment. That's what's called sensory experiences that you do in order to make the audience, the jurors, believe you. Acting tips at fingertips. What are you going to believe? Use your common sense. Use your common sense. Use your common sense because you're smart. Don't let him fool you another time. Stop him. Whew. Theatrics, in the way that most people understand theatrics to be fake, dishonest. That's when I get upset. I get upset because that's not the truth. That's the misconception of what great acting is, which is demanding of you to be honest, involved, fully, your body, soul, mind, which he's doing. Whew. Tell you the story the same way that he's telling you the story about my grandmother when I was a child. And I was living in this little town, Transylvania. There were hills in the back of the house, and those hills in the back of the house, you could see from the new house, balconies. And from those balconies, you can see the hills. The top of the hills, there's a beautiful lake. You can see the hay. We would try to gather the hay and put it on huge piles. And then as kids, we would get on top of those piles of hay, and the smell of it now comes to me, and I can actually smell it. I'm involving my senses. It's taking me back there right now as if I was the little girl playing before I became an adult. That's what he's doing, creating sensory experiences for himself, incorporating all of the details of the case. So then the jurors can experience themselves those sensory experiences as if they were happening to them through him. That's what great actors do. The jury, after that last closing argument, which was the last act they saw before they got to go to deliberate, they came back after only 3 hours, unanimously found Alex Murdaugh guilty. I believe has so much to do in getting the verdict, because I didn't even realize the first time I watched this, but now that I had to sit and listen to it so I can analyze it, so you can understand how he was giving us a performance of deserving an Oscar, because he was so great at experiencing everything and everyone that he was talking about, giving the jurors, the audience, the same understanding so they can experience it themselves. I think due to him, the verdict came back so soon, only after 3 hours, unanimously. Mwah, mwah, mwah.